This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing tonight? Hey, Rob, how's it going over there? Hey, PBBC fans. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. I hope spring is springing where you are, and you're feeling inspired to write that book you have been going to write for how long now? How long now? How long now, Rob? Too long. It's been long enough. Check out the authors we have stopping by tonight for whom the wait is over, and ask yourself, if they can do it, why can't I? Lamar Young is a guidance counselor at a high school in Atlanta, so he knows a few things about sizing people up, and he also knows something about astrology. The name of his book, What's the Deal with My Sign? An Insight on Astrology. How'd you get interested in astrology, Lamar?
Well, that's been an interest of mine since 9 years old, actually. I had picked that up from my aunt, actually, my maternal aunt. She had lots of books, and, she would just read them with me, and I just kind of picked up that interest at that age. The title came about because it has like a personal ring to it. And so I think that, when I came up with that, it's because oftentimes when people read astrology, they're interested in their sign. They want to know things about themselves. And then, of course, they want to go into, if they can get along with other people. And so I do have sections in the book that talks about how an exchange could happen between their sign and other 11 signs. But for the most part, people are interested in astrology for their own personal aspects, their own selfish sort of, inquisitive nature. So that's the reason for the title. I don't get into rising signs. I don't get into the moon signs. I don't have any of that information in my book. It just deals with just general personality traits of that person's sun sign. So it's just whatever time that they were born in, of the year, and just the general personality traits for that particular sign.
I mean, there's a lot of books on astrology out there, so it's important to focus on what makes your book different.
Well, my book is different because it's really written from an urban perspective, if you will. I kind of targeted towards our urban population and our millennials. And so it gives sort of even the language in there, gives kind of a style that will kind of, turn people on that are, young folks that live in large urban areas. Now, of course, anyone can read it and pick it up and find it interesting, but it is targeted towards that demographic. So therefore, I include things that can be attached to or connected by that particular demographic. In addition to that, I do explore the relationships between people. And then I provide quirky things that are unique for that sign. Like, for example, what typical drug would be something that they would, be addicted to or something to that effect. That's written in there. I've also talked about things that are associated with that sign, whether it be like, for example, with Aries, contact sports or sports cars. And then I list, the major sources of irritation or things that they dislike. It kind of gives just unique sort of tidbits for the sign. And then I kind of go into their personality traits, and then I delve into their relationships with other people. So that's what kind of makes my book stand out a little bit.
How are you telling people about this book? Is this required reading for your students?
No, it's not. No required reading. I would love for them to read it, maybe to help them do better in school. But no, no, it's not required reading. But what I'm doing, I'm on social media. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I tweet. I've done a book talk, a book signing event, and then I have another event coming up too. In fact, I'll do one at the school. But yeah, I'm just out there in just the 21st century mode of marketing, if you will. It's been going well because the book was released February 5th. And so, since then, I've had quite a bit of movement on the book. I've looked at the sales, and actually some folks over in the UK bought it. It's doing quite well. I've got a large following out in California, some folks in Chicago, Cleveland, several people in D.C., Baltimore area, of course, here in my hometown, Atlanta. New Yorkers have purchased it. So it's kind of spreading, and actually social media has done a tremendous benefit in helping it spread so well.
That's good to know. That's very good information for our listeners, because I think a lot of listeners, a lot of first-time writers in particular, they're kind of confounded about how to get this out there. I mean, yes, Page Publishing does some marketing for you, but you got to do some stuff on your own too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
You really do.
absolutely.
You got to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're your best marketer. You're your best reporter. You're your best promoter. So absolutely.
Yeah. What did I tell you? What did I tell you, Rob? I say that all the time. David Scott is our next author, and he says 75% of his story, entitled The Player, Maybe He Should Have Played a Different Game, is true. So, you drove one of those hospital vans that picks people up to take them to physical therapy, and if you encountered an attractive woman, you made your move. Is that right, David?
Well, not make a move, things happen, and then, you just go from there.
So you must be a really likable guy, and
I can say that, yeah, always smiling.
you're always smiling. You got into trouble then with two of the women.
These women, they're supposed to come to therapy 2 to 3 times a week. And the way I carry myself, I guess, it makes me more likable, the way I carry myself. And she was a nice-looking woman, so we just started, hanging out, and the next thing you know, we took it further. She was selling her medication that she was getting from therapy for extra money. She had told me that, and I really didn't care what she did with her medicine. That wasn't none of my business. But the doctors randomly drug test everybody to see if the stuff is in their system, medication in their system. And she felt as though when she went in and they wanted to drug test her, she thought that I had told them that she was selling medication. So she had a little scene in there, and then she told them, tell him I'll get him back. So she called the main branch. And she told them that she was dealing with their driver, and she told them that she knew the alarm code to get into the building, and she spit out the alarm code. She told them the alarm code.
She did know the alarm code?
Yes, she did. What happened one day was I had to put together a treadmill. So I always had the alarm code and keys anyway, because I've been dealing with this place for a while. So they trusted me. So what happened was on the way out, I guess by her being over my shoulder, I guess she, looked at the alarm code and she memorized it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so she told them the alarm code, and they flipped. They told me that they wasn't going to fire me, but the next time I was going to be fired.
After that, you kept going? You kept having
Well,
flings?
after that, I stopped for a year. Then I started dating. I met these 2 women. And these 2 women were the women who sent me crazy. These women not only were looking beautiful and fine, but they played the game just as well as I did. When they wasn't with me, they were with somebody else. I let my feelings get into it, but in my mind, I was always told that I shouldn't let my feelings get into it. This is just a game. I see them both at different times of the day. One came to therapy in the morning, and the other one came in the evening.
All right, David, what's the moral of this story?
You're not a player if your feelings and emotions get caught up, and then you wind up like me in the end, doing drive-by, sitting in our houses, watching to see what they do. It really had me really, my mind screwed up. Now, the ending, I made the ending a little bit more dramatic with the killing, but it all plays out to the simple fact that a guy who said he was a player, and real players don't work off emotions.
Right. So this woman ended up playing you.
Right, I couldn't handle it.
So why'd you write this book?
Well, when I wrote the book, I was still mentally, physically involved with her.
Oh.
But our time was diminishing, and my feelings were starting to come together because I knew, even though she would deny it, I knew that once she wasn't around me, she was doing something else. So your feelings kind of sort of like, look, you got to get it together. It is what it is. Let it go.
Right. Oh, I feel for you, man. I really do. Because you sound like a nice
guy. You can't feel for me because the book also tells you that I was a married man.
Oh, you were married?
Yes.
Are you still married?
Yes, I am. We're separated because of this stuff. In my book, I said, thinking with the head with the veins instead of the head with the brain.
All right, David. The old play with fire, you might get burned. Yeah. Robert Statch is intent on saving the human race. That's the name of his book, and he's here to tell us how we can do that. Robert.
The book is basically about global warming.
Oh.
And the upshot of global warming, even though we don't know the actual cause-effect relationship, almost every time we've seen global warming in the last 600,000 years, we've seen an ice age. And so right now we are at levels of carbon dioxide that are greater than any time that we can detect in the last maybe million years. And so the idea is that because of that, we are going to have an ice age that is an extinction level event. And we have 6 people who are scientists of various fields, and they get together, and because of some studies they've done and research they've done, they have been able to build a spaceship. And in this spaceship, they are able, when they travel with it, they find out that they can go faster than the speed of light. When they do that, they go back in time. When they go slightly less than the speed of light, they go forward in time. So therefore, they can time travel. But they can also travel great distances. This is happening about 2112. They know that there's going to be an ice age starting about 2120 or so. They even go into the future and find that it's covering most of the planet by 2130. So they go back to 2012 to try to convince people to change their ways, and they are unsuccessful. So then they decide to start searching for a new planet, and they find a planet in the Andromeda strain that is very similar to Earth, but about 1 billion years younger. And they start taking people from Earth to what I call Earth 2, and that's how they're saving the human race.
Are you a scientist?
Yeah, I have a PhD in chemistry.
So you know what you're talking about.
Yes, I do.
All right, so what happens?
Well, this book, they only can save about several million people, even though by 2112, the population of the Earth is 11 billion people. And they only can save several million because that's all they can transport. And by the time they get everything done, the Earth is actually completely covered with ice and everyone dies. Everyone else who was left on the Earth dies. But on the new planet, I stopped the book with saying, okay, now they have an opportunity to do things right. Are they going to be successful on this new planet, or are they going to do the same things they did on Earth?
So you must be pretty frustrated by people who say there's no such thing as global warming.
I am.
Yeah.
There are people who want to ignore science, and what they want, science can't prove anything, all right? That doesn't mean we don't know things. We can't say things as absolute, but the evidence that we have indicates very strongly that we are in serious problems. And there are things that we possibly can do that would stop those problems. But to do that, unfortunately, you would have to change the way we use energy. That will cost a lot of money. And unfortunately, we have a significant number of people who are more concerned about money than they are about what's happening in the environment. So if they ignore what's happening, if they don't say, well, this is all a lie, I don't believe it, then they don't have to do anything about it. And so I'm writing this. I wrote this book to try to tell people the type of things that could happen if we don't do something.
All right, Robert, thanks so much. And with that, you hear that music, Rob? We have to take a quick break. Come back right after these words.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rostini. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. Dennis O'Keefe loves historical fiction. He's done extensive research on the traditions and customs of an American Indian tribe for his book entitled Dixon's Edge, the first book in a trilogy. Give us the story, Dennis.
Dixon's Edge is standalone.
is more of a mentoring of the character that I'm going to use in the main story, which is Two Hearts. Now, Two Hearts is a story about a vision that a Navajo shaman had when the Navajo were confined to a place called Bosque Redondo, the prison camp. And the vision was, with Earth Mother, ascends white painted woman and strange woman to find the boy who kills the owl. Now, the owl is anything that takes away food from the bellies of the Navajo. And sometimes it's drought, sometimes it's an animal, sometimes, in this case, it's a white man.
Okay.
The Bosque Redondo thing is true. It's a choice land, and the Navajo were living there peacefully. They were growing peaches and just getting along fine with just about everybody. But the whites and the Mexicans both wanted Canyon de Chalet. They sent the army in, Kit Carson. They made the Indians tear down all the peach trees. They killed the horses, burned the saddles, and they marched them from Canyon de Chalet to Fort Wingate, and from Fort Wingate to a place called Bosque Redondo. That's in New Mexico, right near the border of Texas.
Okay.
And a lot of people died along the way. It was sort of like a death march. And most of them remember the Cherokee Trail of Tears, when they moved the Cherokee from Georgia and places like that into New Mexico. But no one talks about the death march to Bosque Redondo. And the reason for that was the Civil War came up, and it kind of overshadowed it, so it's almost been lost to history. So, and that's called the boy Two Hearts. He has two hearts, one of stone and one of a dove. And Strange Woman is sent to cut out the stone heart of Two Hearts, but he's blind and can't see the way. So Strange Woman has to make him see the way to kill the owl. And White Painted Woman, she shoots lightning bolts from the fingers to kill the owl. So what I did, I wanted to bring that in from just a myth to reality. So White Painted Woman, I made her a writer. And Strange Woman, who's not of this land, I made her Chinese, because we had a lot of Chinese in those days. As a matter of fact, we built the railroads. In any case, how did the young boy save the Navajo? So I had to give him experience. So that's why I wrote the backstory of Dix's Edge.
Okay.
Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. But this is the first book in the series.
That's correct.
This is setting all of this up, and then the story just goes through several books.
Yeah, each book is a good book standalone.
Okay. And it sounds like you've been writing for a while.
Yeah, I've been writing since about 2000. The moral of the story is really to open our eyes to racism. I'm not really one of the people that want to change the world because I can't. I hate to see things lost to history. The truth is the truth. So I like historical fiction. I mean, the history gives us some credibility, but it's also fiction because that's what it's all about.
All right, Dennis. Joshua Davis was just 14 when Hurricane Katrina hit. He was separated from his family, wound up in the Superdome and several other states before he found his loved ones again. It's all in his book entitled Write with My Left, See with My Right. Joshua, that had to be so scary.
Yeah, it was pretty scary because since I was by myself, and then I thought that my people would actually be there as well, but it turned out that I was alone because, I was worried because everybody was in the Superdome, and it was like horrible because when people was doing in there, it was like chaos. In the fourth dimension, there's like breaking the vendors, they was fighting, people were using the bath. The restrooms was like terrible. I heard there was like people was raping each other in there. It was terrible.
What about the rest of your family?
They evacuated already before the storm came, but it was just my mom, my younger brother, and her boyfriend. I evacuated myself.
You were 14 when this happened?
Yes. My mom, she was at home. My dad, I don't know where he was, at that time, but my mom stood at the house,
Your mom stayed at the house during the hurricane?
Yes.
You went to the Superdome by yourself?
Yes. I was there, my brother was there, and that was basically it,
You said you lost everything in the hurricane, and she stayed at the house through the hurricane?
Yeah. Police officers, when I was in the Superdome, I told them that I was alone by myself.
And then you wound up in several other states, right, before you found your family.
Yeah, I was in Houston, which is one police officer named Robert Roland. He helped me try to find my family in New Orleans. But after we came from Houston, I went to before I came from Houston, I was in his uncle's house. Then after from his uncle's house, then we was in Houston. Then from Houston to Baton Rouge. Then from Baton Rouge all the way to Illinois, and that's how I met my family in Illinois.
Wow. Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
So you just finally decided to write it all down.
And when I was in Baton Rouge, there was this one Red Cross lady. She said, I had an idea. I said, you know what, I should write a book. And she said, yeah, you should write a book and make sure you include me to once you read a book about it, it was sitting there line, you know. So that's how I wrote the book.
All right, Joshua, thanks so much. Finally, Josh Bowen describes writing as his connection to the Lord. He's been writing short stories about his walk with God for 15 years and has now published them in a book entitled Psalms of Poetry. Josh.
It's kept me alive. Yeah, I just went through my third term of radiation cancer. I was born with hypothyroidism.
You were born with hypothyroidism?
Yes. It was congenital from birth. My mom was very protective of me. She never smoked, she didn't drink. That's the fate God wanted to hand me. I feel I've done great things with my disability. I haven't ever used it as a cop-out. That's kind of BS because anyone, like Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I feel I have. I give him all the praise for all things. Forgive me if I'm a tad biblical or where it was to be that way. The last poem in the book called Unclutched, that's about my ex that totally ripped my heart out. And if it hadn't been for the woman of my life that I have now, I wouldn't want to live, because if I didn't have the faith in the Lord and I didn't have the woman I have walking next to me, I'd give up. We can't give up. We can't ever give up, even if we want to. The last poem in my book called Unclutched, that's about her. And 30 is 30 minutes a day for 30 days. I did what I had to every day, dealing with what I went through. I stayed close to the Lord. I wrote a poem every day. And that's why this book exists.
Are you going to keep writing?
I'm in the process of writing. I have a collection of no more than about 10 poems so far. And my grandmother, I come from a third generation writing family. My Aunt Donna has got a book published in the Library of Congress.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm hoping that one day I'll surpass Walt Whitman.
Well, you go for it, Josh. You never know, right? You never know unless you try. And I know this. It's time for me and Rob to call it a night. Thank you so much for stopping by. We will be back next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club, unless we're preempted by a Mets game. But don't worry, we will be back. Same time, same place, 710 WOR.